It's 8:43 now. Do you throw the milk out as soon as it reaches the use-by date? And what about the packets of expired bickies that might still be in the cupboard?
Sometimes the rules are a little confusing, so can you still eat food after the best before date? Amanda Clark is a nutritionist and the author of Portion Perfection. She joins us now to answer your questions. And welcome back. Good to see you. Now, first of all, the difference between use by and best before.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit confusing because up until about 2001, both of those terms could have been used interchangeably. But now, use by date is fairly strict. It indicates that that food has a health or safety risk associated with it, and it's illegal to sell a product after its use by date.
Oh, and you better not eat it after that date either.
Correct.
So don't stretch that one out. Don't risk it. Don't go there.
Absolutely not.
OK.
With a best before date, that really is an indication that the quality of the product may deteriorate after that, but it's quite safe to still eat it and it's fine to be sold after that date. So it may change its colour or texture or aroma or flavour slightly.
OK.
One of the things that really surprised me is you're saying that use-by dates, once you open the packet, the use-by date becomes redundant. Just explain that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also don't really realise that, but if you think about it, if you took something like a can of tuna, which we all know would have a very long use-by date, when we open it, we don't expect it to last the year that the use-by date might say. So you need to apply that same thinking to every other food.
So milk was the one that surprised me. I just figured I had until the date on the carton, whether it's open or not, but we don't.
Yeah, well, while it's still sealed, it'll definitely be fine until that date, so long as it's been stored correctly. But sometimes when you buy milk, it might have 10 days in the use-by date. And really, once milk is opened, it's really only going to last about 5 to 7 days. So once you open it, that's what you've got.
Mel was asking, does that apply to wine as well? So before it goes off, you can keep it.
Just don't listen to him, Amanda, that's
right,
OK.
Let's run through some of the food here and the shelf life of them.
OK. Well, salads, you can usually tell pretty well when the salad's starting to wilt and starting to look a bit slimy, but it certainly has a use-by date, and it's probably only about 5 days or so. Okay. With meats, you've probably got about 3 to 5 days, depending on what it is. Whereas with your drier products like biscuits and cereals and breads, you've got a much longer use-by date. So they don't actually have a use-by date, they have a best before date.
Because they're not going to kill you, they're just going to taste shocking, aren't they?
Correct, they might get stale or...
Can I just go back, to the meat? Is there a difference between fresh meat and the processed stuff like ham that might have been treated?
When a food is purchased in the form that you'll eat it, then a use-by date applies, so there's a strict deadline. When it's a fresh food where you're going to then cook it and therefore kill some of those bacteria, it actually gets a best before date. And the indication there is that you can tell if there's something wrong with it. But a use-by date food...
So like a ham you're going to be pretty strict with?
Yeah.
OK.
So what about frozen foods? That's always... I thought, why would you have an expiry date or a use-by date on frozen foods?
Well, usually frozen foods have the best before date rather than a use-by date. And that's because the quality breaks down over time. But with most frozen foods, you've probably got 6 months or so in there. And so long as it remains frozen, that applies. If you allow it to thaw, if you pull it out of the freezer, use some of it, package it back up, and put it back in, but you've allowed it to thaw, then you're starting to introduce bacteria.
All bets are off.
Oh,
okay.
So when you get the frozen peas out to put them on the saw knee and then you put them back in?
That's right.
OK. Well, that's what frozen peas are used for.
Exactly right.
In our house.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Learned a lot.